9-to-5 job as a graphic designer, and I'd come home and for myself, drink a glass of wine, watch some Netflix, and for 3 hours every night I would draw until people were like, oh, are you selling prints? Are you doing this? I was like, no, I really was doing it for myself. I'm glad that I went to school for it. I just never thought that I could make a career out of it. So I think that maybe that's where everyone is tonight, or maybe not, kind of having a passion that you do for yourself, and it's incredible if anyone relates to it, but it's not really for them. It's really for you. How did I get involved with Kickstarter? So like any leader in your life, there's one person that does something before you do it and kind of goes out, treads the waters, and tells you, hey, it's okay to do it. For me, that friend was Joe Hollier. Joe Hollier had a brilliant idea. He's a fine artist who was put in this accelerator program for 30 weeks at Google, and he said the only task was to design an app. He broke down during this accelerator program crying. He's just like, the world doesn't need another app. The world needs a light phone. The light phone is a phone away from phone that helps you disconnect and be able to participate in your life with the ability of receiving calls and being able to call your mom. It has 8 numbers. It's basically like the phones that we used to have when we were kids. With 3 numbers, it's great, you're home, you're not home, you're safe, you're not safe. And I think more importantly, the narrative and the story that he was describing in his Kickstarter, his plea was, let's get back to that. Let's get back to that connection. Let's get back to being able to be in a room and not worry that I don't look good, or I'm posing for something and I'm living in this world that isn't really real. It's very curated. And as content creators, we know that it's curated, but a lot of people don't. So in his plea and in his journey, he raised almost $500,000, over 400,000, I think it was 450 for his project, and is now a full-fledged company that is worth over $12 million. And even though I didn't have anything in my brain that was that powerful, I was like, actually, if I presented anything as a narrative like that, I can get money from other people. If I show them how passionate I am, if I make up my credibility with the way that I move my hands, the way that my eyes widen, it's just no, this is important. So next slide, please. For me, that was a children's book. That same friend, Joe Hollier, had all of these campaigns, guerrilla campaigns about the light phone. A comedian, Dan Fox, ends up finding it on the subway and emailing him. He's like, this is fucking brilliant. I can't believe you came up with this. I really want to get in touch with you because I want to write a children's book. Dan Fox is a comedic writer that used to write for SNL and The Colbert Report, and is now just doing his own thing. But he really wanted to make this book, so he shows me the manuscript, we tweak it, and for the next year, we're like, let's make a book about phone addiction. And the fact that kids don't really know this balance. They don't really know that there's a real world. They don't know how to get lost. They don't know that there's a way to disconnect. We got rejected for a year from major publishers all around. And I remember at one point I was working at DBF at the time as a graphic designer. And I remember I was getting paid not really well. It was a lot of hours of just volunteering. And I'm like, you know what, I really don't care for this. Joe was able to do a Kickstarter to get his passion project funded. Why can't I? So within the next 2 months, as a content creator, I was like, let me just make the best, most digestible campaign for my children's book. And we ended up getting $9,000 and self-published. And now we're on our 2nd publishing, because we just decided to bring that into the world, and we decided to ask our community who all thought it was a good idea, as opposed to publishers and the original gatekeepers. I feel like so many people in this room understand that gatekeepers do not understand the future of the freelance economy or the problems that we're facing right now, because everything in the world has changed so much in the past 10 years. That said, I come to Holyrad And if anyone has ever met Daryl, you know that her eyes get this big, and she's just like with her hands, and she's like, this is important, this is space, this needs to be bigger. This space is self-sustaining, which means that it does not make money. It means that the people that come into this room help it be what it is, and then that's it. She's not a predatory person, she's not taking people's money. It is self-sustaining. So I come in here, and what Daryl didn't know at the time is that I've been trying to chase Daryl down when I had a savings to give her $10,000 just because I believed in her company. Because she is so passionate, I just wanted to give her money. When I finally got in contact with her, I did not have the funds. So I was like, let's just do a Kickstarter instead. And if you're a company, or if you have a passion project, I challenge you, if you're not going to do a Kickstarter, to ask yourself these 3 questions. In like 30 characters or less, what's your title? In 150 characters or less, what's your like go-to phrase? Like what like is the most synthesized version of what you're trying to do and achieve in the world? And what is your story? How did you get here? Why do you need crowdfunding? Why do you need someone else's money in order to make your dreams come true? And what is it worth for them to contribute? And I think that if we don't get the money, which, by the way, fucking 7 days in, the Holy Rod Kickstarter is almost at 50%. But if we didn't get the money, at least we were able to create this pitch so that we can diversify income and put ourselves in a position of power. The thing about Kickstarter is that this is not where your money's coming from. This is not your 9 to 5. This is an addition. This is a plus. This is like, if we get this, this is great. If not, we didn't get it. If I didn't publish my book, it would be like, man, that sucks. But I wasn't relying on it for my income. Same thing with this Holy Rod Kickstarter. We not only are doing the Kickstarter, but applying for physical sponsorship and other avenues to put ourselves in a position of power, because diversifying income is the only way to survive as a freelancer. I think next slide. Or is this the story? Oh yeah. So describing your story, etc. Asking for advice. So the biggest ambitious ask that you're going to have to ask your community is, why should they give you money? Involve them. Involve your community, involve them, your mentors, people that have probably had to face these kind of roadblocks. And obviously we're all fortunate enough to live in New York, so you can reach out to these people. At least my mentors, I've never felt like, I don't know, I've never had a problem with asking for help. And I think that's really been advantageous for me. Just because I've never been scared of looking, not looking dumb, but just like having a question. If I know I've done the research and this person wants to help me, I know they want to help me. We're all fucking weirdos that draw in the dark, at least in my community of illustrators. There is no reason for them not to help me. And you'd be very, very surprised. I think in this process, you have to be optimistic with yourself and your community. If not, you're operating from a place of fear and not a place of love, and those are 2 infinite things inside of you. So, going forward. Tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I may remember. Involve me and I'll understand. Thank you so much. That's like my class, and now I would love to answer any and all questions of yours.
So, how long was your Kickstarter?
All of Kickstarters are around 30 days.
30.
Yeah. So for the one that we're currently doing, it's 30 days. We have 20 days left, I believe, or 21 days, and mine was 30. Most of them that are successful are like that. Yeah.
How long was your prep for?
My prep?
Yeah.
So the one for Holy Rod was different. Because it's not a product, because you're not really receiving, like, you're paying $25 for a book and you believe in us, that's great. But with Holy Rod, it's like, a special thank you, and it was really so many versions of it because one of our mentors came back to us and was like, this is way too lengthy. I love you, but I'm not going to read all of this. Which we returned and was like, okay, let's make this all super graphic, like 1 to 2 sentences. Let's let it read like a New Yorker page because we need to get that information. That process totaled to maybe 3 months of work. 3 months.
Could you explain the process of being fiscal sponsorship?
I can't. Elena can.
Yeah, that's kind of outside, but we can totally talk about that. Well, we can talk about it
But
here
just
if
the
you want.
significance.
And we do have fiscal sponsorship now, actually. Our application for Colorado was just approved.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
The significance of it.
oh yeah, because we're an LLC, we can't apply for any nonprofit grant. So like for example, there's the Department of Cultural Affairs of New York City. That entire office, which functions for artists, is only for nonprofit grants. So now it's this loophole that basically allows us to apply for grants as if we're a nonprofit. So this like other organization, Fractured Atlas, basically like it'll channel through them and it's like tax deductible. So people can either like donate to us or we can actually apply for all this money now that before as a for-profit company. But because we function as a nonprofit, even though we use this for-profit structure. So it's a great like loophole for anyone who's like, if you guys are LLCs, like your own business, to definitely, and we can like work with you guys to help get
Because
that.
the big benefit of like getting that fiscal sponsorship is having like your investors have their investments be a tax write-off, right? So like only when you donate to a nonprofit organization is that donation or investment a tax write-off, which is the big motivation in a lot of like larger investors and financiers to like fund art projects, especially because that's technically kind of a philanthropic endeavor. So what the fiscal sponsorship does for you is it gives those donators that like monetization of their donation. So it puts you on this like higher level.
It's like the two avenues, the really rich people and then all the like awesome money and grant opportunities that are.
Because like a rich person, like even just think about it, a rich person is going to give their money away unless they're getting something back from it. Kind of vibes.
And just the fact that it opens up so much more pools of money.
Yeah,
By
absolutely.
being, fiscally sponsored as a non-pro.
Absolutely. I think that as a freelancer, the same way that a regular company has like sales, it has a marketing team, it's creating ways of revenue for that one company. And as a freelancer, I have my prints, which is like, oh great, I get to order Chipotle for lunch today because a print sold for $5. Or, but I'm also doing shows, I'm coming in here, I'm teaching people about Kickstarter, I'm advertising myself as an animator and a graphic designer. There's just like so many different avenues because we are all, to be an artist in today's day and age, I think is really such a luxury. We visually connect in a visually saturated world. And we make people feel, it's just like we are at such an advantage.
So these 3 kind of points you have here. How do you go from show me, I may remember, to involve me and I understand? I think personally, I'm not really an artist, but I am involved in nonprofits. I'm involved in a lot of things sharing. And I feel like for me personally, what the hardest thing is going from what's in my head to like, for example, in a Kickstarter. How do you go to explaining in a way that other people can digest, and what strategies have you found that work really well?
So for this Kickstarter, it was basically taking all of that and getting it so many different versions, but me processing it, someone else processing it, so that it was the most condensed, understandable version. And the beauty of what you have is your sister and a community of people around you that are willing to help you. Because we have the needs to the haves in this space. So if you want something to look professional, hire or trade with a graphic designer within this space. If you want to create a logo, or if you want something to be condensed, or you want to photograph something, trade with someone in this space in order to do that. Because as much as I want to give you the answer of like, how can I show, how can I involve, how can I exude this emotion and this empathy, you're in a room full of people that can help you.
So being around people that can allow you to shift your perspective is a way to...
Shift your perspective and help you bring that to life. Like, for example, Daryl, Elena, and Saskia are brilliant people. It took me coming in, listening to everyone, and being like, okay, I think this is the way that we can pitch it. And it's not to say that they didn't have the wisdom within themselves. It's just kind of, again, getting that different perspective and being like, I think that creating a graph or creating something that like something that you haven't seen every day in a different way, and having that be so clear. Like, do you understand how Holyrad works better after seeing the Kickstarter?
Kind of, but I also have been around Daryl and Elena
True.
since the beginning. So.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think the second question to follow up, but did you run through any exercises with them that helped them extract that kind of vision they had into something that's digestible by others? Do you have any methods that,
Feedback.
Yeah. That
A
was
lot of feedback. So
even
what
more-
I told everyone to do when we had the earliest draft of the Kickstarter was to send it to their mentors and to send it to, which is why I had that slide, ask for advice. When you involve people, when people are giving you feedback, it's just like now they're invested. They've seen their 2 cents. They've seen what they contributed and how they got to clarify, and now their ideas are clarified. And really, I was never really a big collaborator as a fine artist and as an illustrator, but the collaboration in this process is so crucial, because if one person understands it, that's really not good. If everyone in this room understands it, then everyone is more inclined to feel involved and to donate.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Great.
So there's another part of the funding process that goes towards more smaller projects, and it's the pitching process, right? Pitching to individual companies or sponsors to pay for your work, or collaborating with another brand or individual, so that way you have that kind of platform. So I wanted to see if you could elaborate more on that process, because I know that there may be some people who are here who are watching who may be looking like, I have this great idea for a documentary, how do I get funding for it? And initially what I tell people is like, it's the deck. The pitch process is like, it's a whole skeletal outline, but could you elaborate more on that to give people some clarity on just kind of how to approach the process? Because I feel like it can be very daunting and challenging to people who have never done it, or they weren't in an environment where it was encouraged.
Absolutely. And I think that what Kickstarter does, only because of my knowledge from it, is break down that process so it's like a 5th grader could do it. You have a section that's called basics. You have a section that's called story. You have, you're invited to create a video that is 2 minutes long on explaining what you do. And you have your product, essentially. So let's make that a pitch. Basic. I'm a very talented photographer. This is my story. This is what I'm passionate about. And that is the key part of any pitch. I am so passionate about this that it doesn't matter if you do not help me. I will run, knock on doors, anyone, to help me to make this dream come true. This is one of many options. So the reason why I mentioned sponsorship is because it's important that that passion come across so that you are diversifying who you are asking that to. And in the pitch, that's, I think, the most important part, and then going into the story behind why you got there, and then the product itself. I don't know if that answered your question.
That answered part of the question.
Okay.
So I guess my follow-up question would be, in terms of, pitching your ideas to the public and kind of gaining that respect to, have people contribute, what were kind of grassroots ways that you kind of handled it versus going towards Kickstarter? Do you have any other processes that you've seen that have kind of helped you in a way?
Not with Kickstarter, so just kind of like a regular pitch.
Yeah.
Have I ever regular pitched something? I regular pitch myself on a monthly basis to magazines as an illustrator. This is what I'm passionate about, Math Magazine, for example. Here are 3 examples of my work. I would love to work on future projects with you. I'd love to be considered. I would like the language that you use, it's never could, it's would consider. would you consider, it's inviting in, it's showing a work if you're talking about a cold call. If you're talking about, and that's in my experience, if you're talking more of a pitch to a company, I can't imagine that it would be that much different than Kickstarter in the sense that you really need who you are, what you're passionate about, the story behind that passion, and then the product. Does that answer? Okay.
That really answered this question.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to give people clarity.
Okay.
These are some, we're in a space where some people know more and some people know less. And so to integrate those processes towards everybody, that kind of like, those steps need to be like,
Yeah.
it's all of
I'm
us.
writing that for myself. I'm like, I got to do this marketing campaign next week, and I'm like, passion, basics. I'm like, I'm getting my real good advice.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I know that when it comes to crowdfunding and such, there is Kickstarter and then there's GoFundMe.
Yes.
Right? Can you explain why you prefer Kickstarter over GoFundMe?
Yes. I think that it depends the product, but the credibility in which the community of Kickstarter is so curated towards creators
Right.
that I feel like the process is really just effortless. You get so much more control of the JPEGs and you get so much control of the video. I guess with GoFundMe, I just feel like it's more wide ranging. It's not as curated to creators the same way that Kickstarter is.
Okay. Does the okay, so I know with Kickstarter there's like a time frame that you have to raise the money or you don't receive the funding. Does that kind of scare you a bit? Because it definitely kind of scared me when I was trying to do research on which website would be the best for crowdfunding.
Well, I think that it gives a lot of pressure to your community
Right.
and a lot of incentive in a way that, and it really is, it can be 30 days, it could be 60,
Okay.
and it's about under asking as well. You'd be surprised how much people will show up for you because our 50,000 is actually an under ask.
Right.
We really need 150,000,
Right.
but because we understand it's just like you can either operate from a place of fear or a place of love, and this is just, again, this is not supposed to be your ultimate revenue. This is just one of many situations. So like when I had the consultation with Kickstarter, they sat down with us, they just gave us an afternoon to have lunch. And I remember I was like, I'm gonna leave my job because I'm gonna just focus on this Kickstarter. The guy sat me down and said, no, don't do that because we don't know if this is gonna go through. This is like a plus, and this is just a really good pitch and practice for going forward in your life and funding other projects. So the reason I would challenge you to do it through Kickstarter is that it shows your passion, it shows your credibility, and it shows that you are ready to confront your community and maybe not get this. Like, we are all taking risks by doing this. I'm giving this talk and we're not fully funded. We might not be fully funded, but it was worth trying it because it was worth having another way to get revenue. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Can I comment on I guess it's on him, but yeah, Elena sent me the email asking, hey, what do you think about the video? So I think it's all, like I guess they sent it out to a lot, and it was very detailed, like the questions they asked, like, it taught me a lot. For me, it's just like, I'm the type to put up a video, and do you like it? Yes or no, but she had very detailed questions, like, what emotions did it evoke, and I think, as I'm going through for my company, and I'm asking interviews, getting interviews, I always give it to other people because it's like, I'll have my style of saying things, and then I'll give it to someone else, and they'll have a different style, and they'll switch up a word, and a lot of times when you switch up like a word or two, it changes like the whole meaning of what you're trying to convey, the idea you're trying to convey. So I think, especially like in my company, like we have no ego, right? There'll be times like I'll write something and you'll be like, look, I'll give it to someone to edit, and you'll be like, don't be offended. I'm like, I'm not offended. I want at the end of the day, I want the best thing to go out there, whether it's mine or someone else's, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's mine. I care about providing the most value to the people who I'm trying to serve. And I think, yeah, by asking a lot, you see things that you normally don't see. Because I have certain biases and certain ways I like to speak, so, and other people have, and it's like when you have a collection of ideas, I think that's when you get something that, and I think that's why Kickstarter went off with a bang, because you go in there and it's like, I wish I had more money to give. Like, that's what when I see the video, I'm like, I want to give something out. Anyway,
that video took so long because it's incredible with script writing. You're like sitting down and you're like, man, I am articulate, I am so condensed, but when you say it out loud, it sounds robotic. You don't want to give money to something that's like, hello everyone, tell me and I'll forget. You know, like it's insane. We ended up rewriting the script so many times and then making it a story, and I'm like, yes, it has to be a story, it has to be a narrative, it has to be like, you're here or you're here, like a rock in a hard place, and it's just, it's so important for it to be conversational, and again, to invite you in. When you have such an ambitious ask, it has to be at an invitation. It has to feel involved. It has to feel like you are making a difference by contributing, because you are. And that's why it was like it was 3 months of really trying to get it as perfect as possible.
That's very much so along the lines of collaboration as well.
Yeah.
Being able to go to you and say, this is this idea that we have and we're looking to produce, can you review it for us? And I think that as creatives, that's something that we kind of like, we stray away from, like collaboration. Like, I don't want to share an idea that's not out there. I don't want anybody to kind of like see what's going on, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have this like, this thing in our head where it's like, we just keep it to ourselves and we work it on ourselves and we build it ourselves, and then it's going to become something.
Yeah.
But it's that moment of, if you're doing a Kickstarter, you're going to have to share. You're going to have to collaborate in order for something like that to flourish.
Totally. It's incredible the fear that we have between our ears with ideas. Actually, that's something super Miami. I remember like my friends like, yo, I got this idea, but don't tell anybody. I'm like, okay. When is the idea happening? It means that you're not held accountable. That's what it really means. And I feel like when you have an idea, like when I was talking about this book, it's just like, no, I want to tell as many people as possible, because I actually believe that this idea, because I'm passionate about it, is not something I want to hold to myself. People need to be aware of how much they're on their phone, or they need to be aware of Holy Rad, because this is important, and this is so important that it cannot not be shared, or not worth this risk. Are there any more questions? Hi, Daryl.
Yes, I'm on.
Are you going through them, Eric?
For your Kickstarter, you had the 30 days. What time frame did you raise the bulk of the money?
So with Kickstarter, it's usually the first 2 weeks and then the last 2 weeks. So you have like a plateau. Oh, hold
First
on.
week and last week.
First week and last week.
Yeah.
I was
That's
gonna say
a
that's
whole
the whole time.
That doesn't matter.
Honestly, that's what we're striving for. No, it's the first and last week.
Okay.
So,
Can't you on Kickstarter actually choose the amount of days?
yes, we
Yeah.
can. But the most successful are usually within 35 days.
Okay.
Yes, go.
So you talked about changing like language and using like divisive language to invite. You said like wood briefly. Is there
Yeah.
other things that really stuck out to you in the process, specifically maybe with Holy Rad? Because as an artist, I often find I want funding for this, but often it's not a product. It's like just for me to continue like a passion, which
Yeah.
it's like hard. How do you like sum up a passion, to sell? But was there other ways that you found beneficial in like switching like your vernacular that you're using?
Would consider instead of could. Like,
Yeah.
could you fund me, or would you consider funding me?
Cool.
Joe, this guy that we're currently on, the way that he just forms sentences, it's almost like, hey guys, I'm really passionate about this and I really wouldn't be asking if I wasn't. You will just know when you see the language. There's nothing at the moment other than would consider that sticks out to me. But Cole, you're so talented and you're so passionate that like whenever I get money, I just want to give it to you because you're already living through that example. And if you want to create a story or narrative that you want to achieve with your next project and presenting it that way and having like a firm goal so that your community is just like, oh, he needs it for this X amount of time, and creating more of a time limit, maybe that's something that could stick out for you as far as like just a rolling thing, like I really need this for my next project because I really want to create this next series of work that I really feel is necessary in 2019.
Okay, because I kind of feel, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. I think oftentimes I'm like afraid. I think about having a Kickstarter and then I'm like, I can only have one in my life because like how am I gonna ask all these people to give me money repeatedly? But oftentimes it's like, you know, like if it is just to get like this one project done, like is it always like a Kickstarter do you advise, or like is there like a smaller scale of things to get things? Does Kickstarter always have to be huge?
No, mine
Or
was
could I
supposed
just
to
be
be like $3,000. We ended up doing $9. It was incredible. I was like,
cool.
show up, community.
Is there a minimum for Kickstarter?
No, you could raise $100.
There are also alternative forms of crowdfunding, right? In terms of the logistics of it, right? Kickstarter is a platform that we chose because we are creatives, and Kickstarter is the creative crowdfunding platform, right? Indiegogo is the nonprofit organization platform where you can attach your 501c3 to. There are different platforms for different purposes. There's no right way to skin a cat. I would say that, is that so morbid?
That's what's so cool.
My mom says that to me all the time. Is that so horrible?
New Zealander just came out.
She's always like, oh, sweetie, there's 10 ways to skin a cat.
That's like my baby's called
Is
us.
that a British thing? It's a British thing. My mom's from New Zealand, so she's like, just messed up. I'm like, should we go to the garage? Yeah, okay. One, I totally agree that it comes down to translating your passion. It also means letting go, and I'm working on this right now, is letting go of people that are just not gonna get it and just be like, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
And then,
Because they're probably not going to give you any money anyways. If I'm so afraid about getting them to like invest in me, they're
Yeah.
probably not the right people to be tailoring to.
no, absolutely, but it's also like Patreon, for example, right?
Yeah.
I know, I don't know anything.
I have full faith that the world is going to get a lot more comfortable about paying for creative services and supporting creativity, and also supporting services in a membership-based model. I think that people are just kind of catching up to that value exchange, right? So normally the way you purchase things is you go into a store, if they already had all this back-end financing, you give them money and that's their profit margin or whatever.
Yeah.
We are just reorganizing the way in which money is being transactions and how we create trust in throughout that transaction, yes?
Yeah.
Because our Kickstarter campaign isn't necessarily just about a transaction, it's about redefining value for a community.
Yeah.
One thing that I think we all discovered in the process of our Kickstarter was, as long as you can do your best to get the explanation to a place where you could sit on your knees and explain to a 5-year-old, like Mr. Rogers style, and believe it or not, although it's difficult, there are ways to take very complicated concepts and bring it down to that level. In fact, I encourage it because it's a great way for us to decolonize our language.
Yes.
But at the same time, if you do your best effort to do that and people are still just like, but why? Those people are not for you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I would love to touch upon something that you just said, which is like the guilt of only being able to ask help for once. I can only have one Kickstarter, and that's something that I feel and I haven't worked through. It's like, okay, this engine is going to get started, this Kickstarter money is going to get us to a place where we're like really generating our own income. But when you're unwilling to compromise how you're making money, that's not necessarily predictable. So like, what is it about something that Cole and I are both experiencing, which is like, I can only do this once in my life because I can't go around to the same people and ask for the same amount of money again, because that shows that I failed somehow. I totally relate
Before
to
I
that.
answer that question, would
Yeah.
you have done a Kickstarter if I didn't tell you to?
You know the answer to that question to me. Absolutely not, because I have a problem with asking for help.
Excuse me?
I have a problem asking for help. I have a problem asking a community who is of need of money for money.
Yeah.
That does not make sense in my head. But the irony is that the people that are giving us money are the people that we translated this issue to, who have money, who are giving it to us.
Yeah.
And everybody else is kind of enjoying the campaign and the marketing of it and feeling like, oh, this is cool, there's something momentum behind this. But in order for you to receive help, you have to just get comfortable with constantly and continuously asking for it as a reflection of your own self-worth.
Great, you just answered your own question.
Thank you. But, I answered it, but the applying it is.
Applying it is hard, and I think that it's just like anything else. It's your baby. Like, I would have not asked for this if it wasn't outside of me. Oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy what Daryl will do for me and she won't do for herself. Or the other way around. Like, when I come in here, I love Daryl so much, it's just like, girl, of course we're gonna do this. This is my second Kickstarter. You know, when I had this book, it was just like, it's crazy what I'll be able to ask for because it's not for me directly. And I still haven't gotten to that place where I'm personally comfortable. Like, yo, I'm Virginia Zamora, I want you to come to my show and like pay me hundreds of dollars. But like, every single day, I am working towards that. I'm getting closer to saying no to the wrong projects, yes to the right projects, yes to my value. And I feel like every day that I'm doing that as an entrepreneur, not even as an artist, as an entrepreneur, I'm getting closer to asking for more money from my community because there's no reason not to. I'm not going to operate from fear. I'm going to operate from love. I'm going to operate from the people that understand me and understand my work and my value.
Also, one thing I know you mentioned, like, you know, you feel like you can only do one Kickstarter, like that mentality. I would say, like, if you ever look at, this is like a different example, if you ever look at con artists, they're like con artists all their lives, and they scam people all their lives, and you think that you can only get away with it once, but they keep on doing it. And it's
We're going to try to get away with it.
And it's like, if con artists can do that while not providing any value, you're actually providing value, so why can't you do it?
Yeah.
And you're actually giving back. Yeah.
It's professional scamming.
Getting something in return.
Wait, I got low-key called and scammed 4 times today. The IRS called me.
No!
Maybe like 4 times, but.
Let me answer that next call.
No, I was like, I am Cole Witter, come to my show, pay me hundreds of dollars.
Oh my god.
It was a recording. Don't worry.
I think, sorry, hi.
This is Emma. This is basically my cousin. She's an incredible fucking dancer, singer. She killed this audition today. I'm in love with her.
Thanks, Mom.
No problem.
I was just having this conversation with somebody about creating a vision to manifest, and the ultimate vision should be motivated through altruism. And because aren't we all here to inspire people? We're all artists. You know, like we're not selfishly trying to like make, you know, I want to have a show for myself. Please give me money. It's like that's not really going to work. I think the template that you have to use is a template of helping people, a template of inspiring people, of altruism, of alchemy. If you have fear and if you're motivated by a place of fear of this person isn't going to give me money because this is my project and oh it's bad, it's having your self-worth, your self-value, and also maybe writing out a mission of how this is going to affect your community, how this is going to help people. And that's the golden nugget right there.
Absolutely.
And that's where that energy will flow because you're like, oh, I'm actually doing this for the good of my society.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is. I mean, your work is fucking revolutionary.
It's gonna heal people.
It
If
is.
you're gonna heal somebody, then some billionaire, you're gonna be like, yeah, you want to give your money to me because I am going to help your daughter. I'm gonna help your cousin. Something, you know, make it personal and make it about help.
It's interesting because I feel, thank you for sharing that. I think right now also politically, in our like artistic climate that we operate in, also sometimes you're like, but I don't have like the stance, like I don't is my voice like, you know, the one that everyone's like banking on for the 10-page spread of like, Vanity Fair, you know? Like when they always, everyone's like, it's so cool to be PC, but at the same time, like you're trying to be true as an artist, and then you're like, how do I pitch truth, and how do I tell people that this is important, but it's not like raising money or anything for children on like being like tear gassed, you know what I mean? Like there's moments where sometimes I feel like what I'm making is so trivial and unimportant, but I know that that's false because my mere existence is itself a rebellion. But like, is that enough? Like, how do I sell that, you know? And I know it inspires other people, but it's just hard to like maybe I guess I just need to incorporate more people in the process, or like get feedback, or like
Well,
get.
it's also not comparing it to
Those things.
extreme, you know, like, it's not like I'm gonna help the Syrian refugees, like, let's, you know,
Obviously, yeah,
broaden
it's like
it,
definitely,
you know, like, it's about healing the emotional, you know,
Yeah,
like,
that's
if, I'm giving an outlet for people who have no outlet.
Yeah.
That within itself is like a golden light that somebody will be like, oh shit, he knows how to be happy.
He's setting an example for me. By being authentic, you're giving other people permission to do that. Daryl is showing through example by sticking her neck out, like spearheading this Kickstarter and being like, I'm showing up for my community and saying it's okay to do this.
But I also think that it's important for us to eliminate the illusion that a majority of the past 2 months were not spent shooting content. It was not spent fundraising. It was spent being like, what is the fundamental one-sentence definition for the value of space for creative people? And that was what we spent the most amount of time in. That little nugget that you're describing is important for us to not glaze over, like, yeah, just figure it out. No, Cole, that is going to be what you spend your time on. Everything else for you is easy. You're a good storyteller, you're good at image making, you have incredible content, you're an incredible person. The key to a good Kickstarter, I think, is getting that little nugget where you're able to ask yourself, what is the value on society to art? Like, do we have that conversation enough right now?
No.
Despite seeing more photos throughout the day than all the words combined, yes? We have, society is not kind of caught up to sort of like, what is the importance of art? I mean, that's a good question for us to all answer, like right now even, I don't have it yet. What is the role of the artist? From antiquity to now, what is the importance of that? Why do we create art? Why do people come to you?
Part of it, so two things. The question, you create art as a cultural way. So you have artists, basically, who think that help people tell stories about them. Right? It helps you define that moment of affiliation and feeling. Right? And having and you're able to express it through visual, through dance, through music, through any sort of medium in which you decide to start expressing. So I think that's the that value though is nice. So as someone who like, you know, I raised, you guys are part of some weird things going on, like I raised money for random different entities from like big pharma to like big cosmetic companies to like creating stuff like that. And one thing you really have to understand about raising money, first of all, people are going to spend money. The concept that people want to spend money is a false one. The question is, what are they going to spend money on?
Yeah.
Right? So the whole concept of I love your investment is about how you know like you have these bigger ideas and you're like, well, I'm scared to express myself, I'm scared that they won't choose my way. Fuck that shit. Fuck that noise. I've literally raised millions of dollars off products you're never gonna hear of, you're never gonna invest in be involved with, and guess what? They're still real. So defining what your value also to what everyone's been saying is also very important. Right? It doesn't have to be this big show in Vogue or in Italia or freaking IB or Interview Magazine or any of this stuff. Obviously, but I'm saying in terms of it could be this consistency, right? Being able to create consistency is valuable in its own right because you're able to express yourself and share a story with someone who you can actually deal with, right? Or you can help heal.
Exactly.
So I think that really a lot of the hesitation of raising money comes from pride, right? It comes from this concept of me, myself, as you said, asking for help, me, myself, going to my community, me, myself, going to people that I'm like, yo, I don't really want to ask these people for help, but like I said, that first part, people are going to still spend money. The question is, what they're going to spend money on. And why not be you? Why not be your projects? Why not be the projects that your friends and your family and your people that you really admire and support are doing?
I'm going to piggyback off of that because actually this brings up a really relevant point to asking again for money. We saw a Kickstarter that's on its 10th cycle, the Invisible Dog Gallery. This guy is literally,
Shout out to Eric for showing
shout out to Eric for showing us. This guy is literally on a bike, passing around baguettes to his neighborhood, this beautiful French man, and he's just like, hey, this is the 8th Kickstarter that I've had. I need whatever, like
$42,000.
$42,000 again
It just goes
this
up
year.
and up every year.
Every year. And it's because he's not afraid of falling on his face. He's not afraid of taking that risk
And he's
for his
really-
community.
He's really enjoying himself.
And he's really enjoying himself. And you're right. People are going to spend that money. It's just about asking. It's just about asking in the right way. And he's not even asking in a, he's just asking in a really friendly way, like, hey guys, got
He's not
baguettes
even
in my
trying
hand.
to, he wasn't even necessarily trying to defend anything. right?
No, he wasn't. He was just like,
I think
I
the pledges
exist.
were like,
A bunch of kisses.
a kiss.
oh, a French kiss.
French kiss.
Netflix and chill was a $850 option as a reward.
And people bought it.
And people fucking bought it, which means he's gonna FaceTime with someone over dinner and be like, this is some really good spaghetti that you're not even eating, and you're just like, have my presence.
Yeah.
And like at a certain point I was looking at Daryl, I'm like, should we just do this?
Listen, I'll do whatever it takes.
I'll sit on a cake.
I literally
Make me an offer.
Like, there
Is it
no
still live?
shame
Okay,
in
yeah.
doing the Kickstarter over and over and over again. There's
No.
no shame in
No.
having more.
Oh shit.
Well, because here's the thing, Cole, right? The Invisible Dog could raise $42,000 by using the capitalist system, which is I have a service, I have a good, and I'm going to give those services out. But what that does is it disproportionately prioritizes people who have a higher income than those don't, right? So what Kickstarter is doing with this guy, he's saying like, hey, everybody with money who cares about art, I'm really enjoying myself. This is what we've done with it. If you care about it, great. And because he's not being there, like, art's super important, and like, these are the facts, and like, he just is simply presenting that this is something that he believes is important and has been proven to be important for other people. There is no difference in the amount of money. The approach in which we're doing it and the way that we've been conditioned to understand what a transaction is the reason for why Kickstarter, for all of us in this room, are like, but then like, what's the value? And I think that question is so revealing for me even now to be like, oh, it's because, what are we, Elena? We're consumers first.
Citizen second and humans with the soul last. Don't ever forget it.
Kickstarter is humans with the soul first. Yes? So, also, cool, it's okay to imagine that the Kickstarter fails, and then you can do it again as well. Which we have, and I have, I think, even accepted. And we're doing technically well based off of what's, Kickstarter statistics say, right? What was the question?
You were just
talking.
You're saying it's bringing up in yourself that this is a story, that this is something that you've accepted into my podcast.
Lol.
And we're talking about the invisible dog.
The invisible dog. Well, Eric, why don't you tell us about the invisible dog? Because we found out about the invisible dog through you.
Yeah.
We were concerned, being like, what do we do?
We're like on all fours, like in the office, like, guys, we shouldn't even just do this anymore. Like, we're drawing out diagrams. Eric's like, you know that there's someone on a baguette with like, with a bike just getting $42,000 for no reason.
Yeah.
So I actually used to be a program director at the Invisible Dog, and we used to operate different gallery exhibitions. We also host residency spaces. We have like a program. We do public events. But it is very much so, like you said, it's this thing where it's like, these are the services that we offer, this is what we can do, and we want you to help. It's very different so from the Holy Rad model, where it's more so like, we're cultivating freelancers and we're bringing them together and we're helping to assist them further their projects and their work, right, as a community. But what Invisible Dog did is it fostered a family and it fostered programming that allowed it to speak to the community. So although when it came in, it was this space that everyone looked at like, what the hell is going on? Why is this French man coming into Brooklyn? What the hell is he gonna do? You know, but he took it as a challenge, right? Just like as Holy Red is doing. And he went in, and when we first started doing programming, I remember being like, what the hell is going on here? Everybody speaks French. I can't understand a thing. But it took for me to first switch my way of thinking about the situation that I was in and take it as a full learning experience. And doing the Kickstarter with them and seeing how they operated was definitely number one. I was like, you know what, I'm always struggling to find money for shit. I'm always looking for money. I'm always like reaching out to people and I find it hard. And he would show me the iteration of the video, we would work on it, and then we sit there like, let's just have fun. You know, because we enjoy what we do. And we should be showing people that. We should be showing people that we love what we do, we're enjoying it, and that this is our passion. If we can get that across, then who cares if the money comes in? Because it's about us being true to who we are.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments where after I left the Invisible Dog and even coming here and hearing that, you know, they were starting the Kickstarter, I was like, oh, y'all gotta see this shit. You gotta see this, because for the last couple of years, we've been running Kickstarters and we ain't did shit. You know, we did work, obviously. We created a skeleton for it, and that skeleton was able to be reproduced year after year after year. And so, although people asking money for the same exact project, this is what we did in the last year to advance our goals. This is what we're going to do next year to advance it even further. And if your contributions go over the budget, this is what we will definitely do. You know, he offered these tiers. He laid everything out. We laid everything out. Shit, we laid everything out. Bitch was tired. But, you know, it's all to say, oh, one more point, because I was going to piggyback off of somebody a while ago. This was after working at the Invisible Dog, I was working in advertising. So I was working at Vice. And working there, I was involved in the pitching process for all of our projects, whether it was ID, Garage, Vice Sports, or whatever. And I remember being the person that had to sit down and actually do the copy and like figure out how we're going to lay this out visually and how we're going to get it across to like 50-year-old white men. But I found that as a challenge because I'm like, how can my black ass do copy and, you know, promote an idea or a campaign or an activation that's going to be in interest of these 50-year-old white men in their company? How? You know, but it was about finding that common ground for one. It was about being open and honest with what I wanted to see come out of the project. Like for me, it was very important that I saw diversity come out of our projects. So that was my passion. It was a very small passion. It wasn't about helping Syrian refugees. It wasn't about going overseas. It wasn't about, you know, helping all the gays. It wasn't. It was about simply seeing more representation in the projects that I do because I am trying to see more representation in the back end, right? And so then from there, it was about making sure in every project that I did, whether representation got selected or not, it was implemented. You know, because I knew that I was doing my job, that my passion was there. You know, that I could walk home and feel good about what I did. So although your passions may not be visible, they may not be out there for the world to see, it's about keeping those for yourself. Whatever you do, whatever you're looking for funding for, whatever you're searching for, or whoever's coming to you, you have to keep who you are and your values intact. Because if that's not there, you can get the money and totally fuck it up. You can get the opportunity, the space, not know what to do with it, and it can be chaos. You know, but it's about people like us who don't have money for our projects, who have a passion, who are out there making sure that our passions are being seen, our passions are being heard, and our passions are being shared. Working in advertising shows me a lot. And it's that you don't need money to get your shit across. And honestly, that's the last thing you want, is money. Because money, it just totally flips everything. But when you don't have money, you can truly see who's passionate about what they're doing, who really has goals, who has visions, who wants to see a positive outcome from the things that they're contributing to this.
Also, another thing is like you don't have to please everybody. Like a lot of people think that you have. There are successful stores that just cater to like a very unique, specific demographic. Like there are some T-shirt stores that are meant for like grandmas, and they're successful. Like they don't need anybody. They have enough grandmas out there who buy their clothing, who buy their shirts. And that's it. Like a lot of people think that even like if you're a good salesman, you close like something like 10 to 20% of your deals, you're good, right? You're failing 80 to 90% of the time, but who cares? It's like you need to fail that much to get that level of success. So I think a lot of times, especially, it's like you think you have to please everybody, but it's like you don't. You just have to find a certain level of people to please that will sustain you, and that's really it. And I think there's a lot of times like you really can't have all the friends. You don't have enough time to have all the friends. You only need like a select group. You only need you can't even in like a successful online store, if you have like out of like 100 visitors, only like 5 to 15% will buy. So and like a 10% conversion rate online is very good. And it's like if you look at it from the perspective of I need to get 80%, you're gonna fail and you're not gonna launch that store, as opposed to you going, all right, whatever, this is just the natural part of life and going through business, and I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna focus on the people who do buy from my store. Like I said, if you're always focused on because like I said, even for my company, like a lot of people like the name I have, but there's someone who wasn't. You're like, I don't like that name, but it's like, who cares? You're not my demographic, you're not my customer. Who cares? I'll move on to the next one.
That's an interesting point too. That at my company, I work in a small tech company, and for us, we originally came out out the doors like we want to satisfy everyone. We want to be able to work with all these developers. So we built tools for the developers, and one thing we're actually starting to realize is that that's actually making that process a lot harder for us. And we're actually shifting into a phase where we are actually going to focus on one very small select group of people, not people, but companies that use a specific tool, and we decided that we're going to make it great and amazing for them. We're not going to worry about, we're going to shut off signups. We're going to shut off signups, and we're going to focus on these people to make sure that their experience is good. And through that, we're going to learn, because we failed. There's no success without failure. Yeah. And through that, we are going to learn and improve our product, and hopefully in the future we can really support this bigger, wider group. But if we are able to focus on a small, select few, we can really nail that.
Yeah, and that's actually how you, I think, horizontalize power at the end of the day, right? It's because we've only ever given top down.
Yeah.
You don't even recognize how much you just step and repeat that mentality. So even now, one, I'm hearing that people say that when you try and please everyone, you're actually doing something counterproductive for your own sake. Two, when you focus in, it actually does a much better job at the beginning stages of you getting to the next level. And then three, why is the purpose to be broad? Who told you, who gave you that version of success?
Yeah.
The more people that like you, the more successful you are. Well, that can't be true. Probably means you're a very good sociopath.
Yeah.
And to answer, I think, a broader statement that all of us are struggling with, which is like, well, I've never seen it before outside of myself. Like, how am I supposed to just ask for money for my art? People don't do that.
I have planted the seed in every single person. I hope that that's at least what you're walking away with tonight, because that's what I got from my community with Joe and with Ivan Cash.
Yeah, and the more then we see it, then we'll be like, oh, that's how something becomes quote unquote normal, right?
Exactly.
Like more people hang on to it and make it something that's possible. But there is absolutely no reason for us to sit here and say that asking for help is not an essential part of the process to success, and the illusion of all these other people who have already had success or whatever, the people who have monetized in a conventional way where they have stock image and they sell it, or they have a product in the store and they sell it. It's one way to do it, and that will never go away, but something I think that was really cool about the Holy Rack community and the discussions we have here is that if you haven't seen it before, that actually means you're probably onto something, and you just have to sort of deal with the demons that are like, no, you
Between your ears, for sure.
Yeah.
So I have two friends that have done stuff in their relative industries that are completely different and are literally groundbreaking for the industry. Right? One's a DJ and is now arguing with his DJ in the world. And the way that he moves, and I think that makes him really amazing, is that he's really valuing himself, right? So this is a very normal kid, very normal family, very normal situations. And what he's really been able to do is parlay his talents by working with people and leveraging that aspect. So what he does, what you guys said, which is unique, is that he makes music with artists, release the music, all the those artists label it, and then walks away. When he has some success with that, it allows him to go from label to label to label to label, and leverage the fact that, like, yeah, I just did this with this artist, I just did this with this artist, I just did this with this artist. In the long run, he's now worth about $44 million. He's 26 years old.
Yeah, but the important backstory is that that's not normal.
No, it's not normal. No, that's what I'm saying. His whole trajectory, this is all happening in 4 years, is completely people are confused. Like, many people are very confused on how he got it. And if you watch it, it's like, well, he just did it to the point where it's passionate and he's good at it. And again, things are lucky because you always do lucky success, and everyone's like, you're not lucky. But those concepts are really lucky. Another one I found in order to feel this person artist and data and stuff like that. The way he's done it is that it's pushing with his value, always putting his value before those working with masterminds. And usually what happens, especially as this conversation, is that people feel very intimidated by working with bigger entities, right? Which is fine. But usually those bigger entities need smaller people to do the jobs that they cannot do, right? So when you're in those positions, you value yourself and say, this is my way, and then here you see my work, this is my way, and I'm walking away, that aspect, that fear is something that people watch on. To make sure confidence and help, right? So like brands do it all the time. You watch many and massive, someone's massive super brands. The whole concept is taking a concept, taking an item that everyone can do, everyone can make. A good example of this is Spaces. So they're a UK party gallery. They do gallery pops all around the world, right? These kids started as celebrity photographers who take very, like everyone's creative who's done like very good, but nothing crazy images of celebrities in very tiny spaces. They parlay that into gallery spaces, they parlay that into brands, they take these spaces and they parlay that into world tours where they can sell out 2,000 person venues without even being on. And they're celebrity photographers, right? So it's, again, putting your value in front of that, and then as you're knowing, like really just having, as I said, having fun with it, right? If you're doing something that you want to do, you look like that's interesting. If you're doing something that you want to really get loud about it, you look like that's really interesting. There are multiple people all around the world that's what's happening now. It's great being a place where you can change it. Look at Kid Super. Don't look at his business model because it doesn't work. But don't ever, but when you look at his brand, look at the way this kid moves, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Just because he's very loud, he's very passionate, he's very aggressive about this is who I am, right? And that's really what people value to. So that's, yeah.
And one more thing, this is another seed on the plant, because this changed my life this year. Let me tell you. So I was always struggling with, when I was working with people, and like, you know, they would come back to me over and over and over again for work. But it would come in like January, it would come in like March, it would come in like August. And I was just like, you know, why don't y'all just work with me? You know what I'm saying? Because I need the money, y'all need the shots. Let's work. I put everybody this year that I've been working closely with on retainer. And that changed my life. Talk about having funding for personal projects. You tell people, hey, this is how much I'm going to charge you for my services. This is how many hours I'll dedicate to you a month. People are like, okay, you'll give me 10 hours a month for X amount of dollars? Cool. And in that 10 hours, you can do all of this. And if you want a studio and all that stuff, then we'll charge extra. But you know, that motto has worked for me so well that I'm like I'm already looking into January, how to get as many people on retainer as possible. Because it has allowed me to like really flex myself and invest in myself. Because at the beginning of every month, I know how much I need to put into film or, you know, rentals, and how much I need to pay in rent. And then everything else, I'm like, okay, great. So now I can do a personal project this month, or I can go buy this mic, or whatever I need to do my own personal project. And so it's not necessarily looking at other people to fund your personal projects, but switching up the way that you're being paid for your services so that there is a line item for your personal project that they don't know about. You know what I'm saying? That little extra $25 that I'm charging you, little, like, you know, I'm rightfully charging it, but that $25 is going towards film for my personal project. You know what I'm saying? As it should.
Yeah.
Because you always
That's
have
what
to,
money's for,
you have to
it's
make,
energy.
you have to make those line items for yourself. When you're lining your items for, this is how much I'm gonna charge the client for my services, I think one thing that we tend to do, and is why we don't have money for personal projects, is we try to charge as little as possible, or as fair as possible. We're like, okay, we'll just charge one something. What the hell are you gonna do with one something? And that's what I found asking myself every single time I was doing it. I do like a 3-hour job for a friend, and I'm like, what am I gonna do with this $125? Like, that's a Metro card. Like, that's it. That's it. You know, so it's like, besides that, it's like, how can I monetize my value? And by knowing my value, how can I get people to see my value? Right? It's by telling those people, you know, these are the services that I can offer you. This is how many times a month that we can meet. My phone is available 24/7. You know, by offering them this very personalized experience, they feel like they're working with a company.
But the key word there, Eric, is feel.
It's feel.
And we are really good as artists to create feeling. I mean, almost in like an evilly manipulative way, yes?
Yes.
We are exceptionally good at storytelling and evoking feeling that has a really good job of explaining something that normally is in contrast with the way that the other side of the world explain things, which is like quote it and numbers and ROI and prove it. What is the return on investment for my pledge?
Exactly.
Well, with Invisible Dog, it's a kiss. And why is it a kiss? Because what they're purchasing, right, is the ability to feel included in other people feeling good.
It was a kiss and a thank you.
And a thank you. But if you do not feel your own value, if you do not feel your own joy, if you do not, or if you do and you have yet to discover how to articulate to other people, that's what the last few months really was for us.
Yeah.
It was all the other work that we already are very good at, which is slaying a fucking video edit, Saskia, okay? Creating an incredible archive of work, also Saskia. Having an incredible amount of people coming in and needing these services. That was already there. What we were struggling with is the psychological difficulty of being like, I know that this is really important. And how do I convey that in a way where other people can feel that feeling and be called in to contribute that feeling being spread? That is what perception is, and that's what advertising is. It's the perception. It is the perception. And that's why advertising can be very evil, right? Because you're good at creating perception, there's no shit on the back end, right? That's really dangerous, but I can say that was the biggest gift that Virginia gave us was a moment of pause to be like, okay, what is our worth on a really deep emotional level?
Emotional level, because I think that you can intellectually understand anything. You can intellectually understand that smoking cigarettes is bad for you. But when you see an advertisement where it's an emotional mom telling her son that she has 7 months to live because she made the choice of smoking her entire life, that resonates with you. And that's what I was trying to do with Daryl. When I walked in, I'm like, but why?
I was like, she includes feelings! Because, and I was like,
I got every single one of them to cry in my interviews.
yeah, that's good, fuck you. It was good.
It was no, because it needs to go there. It needs to be like, why? Why? Like, Daryl, why are you here right now? Like, why are you showing up for your community? What have they done for you? And then just like, you not being here without them.
The answer is a lot of this is about emotional.
What?
It's less about what you're actually selling and what's physical. And
Oh, it's all about
it's all about
perception.
emotion. It's all psychological.
Sort of along those lines too, what you can do as an individual creative is that, and this is what I really try to do all the time, probably because I'm lazy, but probably just because I think it's a good idea, is building teams, right? So don't be afraid, not saying oversell yourself. If you can't do something, find the best person you know around you that can.
Yeah.
And tell them, yo, and this is what you can do as actually a creative. You can be like, bake in a 2K budget for the dope ass videographer that you know is dope as fuck, but you know that they're not gonna do it unless they get paid, right? And what that does to you, it psychologically actually, to your point of not asking for yourself, mentally gets you to be like, oh, I need to think about someone else.
I think also just being in the space and having the needs to have, like, let's say you don't have that budget right now, but you want to create a Kickstarter, you and I can trade as a graphic designer and your craft, and it's just like, this is a beautiful space to be in regarding those collaborations. And this is why these talks are so important.
Say that one more again. Trade services with your fellow artists. Trade
Bartering.
services with your fellow artists. I cannot stress how beneficial that has been to me around my close group of friends. Like, I know what I'm capable of doing, I know what I'm good at doing, and I know what I just can't do.
Yeah, but that also takes a deeply rooted understanding of transaction.
Facts.
We are all incredibly intelligent, incredibly conscious, incredibly responsible beings in this room. I can say that without a doubt, yes? That we're all a work in progress, but we are taking responsibility for that. But something that I always forget is how deep-rooted my idea of transaction is, which is fundamentally connected to the fact that Virginia had to literally make it not optional for me to not choose her as somebody that I could ask for help for in order for this to even happen. And that is because, and that's a funny story we can talk about over drinks, but it's because of the fact that transactions our entire life has been money and value. We have to walk over here and be like, if we are not interested in participating in mass consumer capitalism, we have to also recognize the abundance value of our surroundings and know that there is a way for us to provide value to each other without cash, right? If we're sitting here being like, fuck the Benjamin Franklin bill, fuck, capitalism, but then we don't also simultaneously positively affirm that belief by saying, hey, can I provide value for you that's not taxable by the IRS? And be like, oh my God, what is that? But I don't know. The reason for why it's not obvious to us is also because those systems are not in place necessarily, which is also why I'm so excited when anybody physically comes into this space. And something that maybe we can do when we mingle after the round table is when you go and introduce yourselves, it's not for the purpose of a follower, but to be like, what are the incredible values of each individual person here? And can I really ask myself and connect those dots so that I can take all of this wonderful abundance and provide value in return? But it's weird how so many of our masterclasses so far have been about very seemingly professional development conversations, but they always end up in a very spiritual place, because in order for us to redefine a system, we have to really
That's what we need. Because as artists, we don't value self-love.
Yeah, but Pascal, what are you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say us, you tap into it's spiritual, but it's also there's the other side of it. It's me being a creative of color and also being queer, and working with other creatives of color who are also queer, and also having clients who are also those things. And then there would be well, why should I pay you? Because you're also like me, therefore you know that I should not pay for this transaction.
That's
but
fair.
then it's how do you kind of showcase that that's so valuable, and therefore that transaction should so
I've had that thought before too, and it's because the reason why we don't have money circulating is because we don't pay each other, which is 100% true, and I think we need to start taking responsibility for that. Yes, but it also is important to recognize that we just haven't been taught how to make sure that we can hold each other accountable to a certain value system. So something that Elena created for us here at Holy Rad is actually a template for a barter system, which is saying, this is what I'm going to provide for you for this amount of time for this exact purpose. And then the other person says, wonderful, I can see that on paper. This is what I am going to provide for you that is of equal value, at least I think. And then you come to an agreement and say, this is of equal value. But when was the last time you used a contract to breed camaraderie in your community? When was the last time a contract was used non-adversarially? So I 100% agree it's important for us to pay each other, but it's pushing that problem further away from the solution being capitalist transaction. Being like, I want to make sure, and it can be really creative. It can be like, I have a car, and you have a bag of eggplants from your backyard. I would like 12 eggplants for 12 rides worth of eggplants. And like, that's actually something that is important, yeah.
Yeah, and I think piggybacking off that, I think sometimes it's difficult because oftentimes, even though they're fellow artists, even if in different mediums, even if it's just like an illustrator to a photographer, sometimes we're all doing the same thing, but we view it differently, and it's hard for us to step outside and quantify what their worth is. So I think something that I've learned too in trades is like, it's not enough to just be like, oh hey, then like, you know, for a headshots or something, they'll be like, oh, and then I can just like get drinks with you sometime, and you're like, you just have to be like, no, we could do that also, but on top of it, it's more than that. It's like, you know, you have to barter, and that's the moment where it's like, now you have to really ask for what, you have to listen. And even before you do the job, you should probably have that conversation of like, what are you gonna give me? And exposure is never enough. That's not
exposure.
So the exposure is like the weakest, like it makes me so angry, and especially with somebody. Okay, we're not gonna go there. I was like, everyone knows. But like, you just really have to be honest, and you have to say no to those jobs then if they're not going to actually serve you. So if there's
because
a trade,
you're saying yes to those jobs that do pay you,
right,
or those trades that do benefit you.
Yeah.
By saying no to those that don't work.
100%. And if that person's like, well, why should I have to pay you? Then you're like, well, then maybe I'm not getting enough out of this. You know, then that's the moment where you're just like, okay, I thought this was more like for us, but I guess this is just like, you're really benefiting from my worth more than I'm even aware of.
Yeah.
You know, because like, we're really fucking valuable, but when we live with ourselves every day, just being fabulous and like making this dope art and just like living our lives, focus on the good things. When we have that, it's hard for us to step outside and be like, quantify it. What is it worth? What is our time? What is every minute we're checking an email or just corresponding? You know, like everything is worth something, and we just really have to recognize that and notice and recognize when people are trying to take advantage of our time, but not out of sheer malicious intent, but out of ignorance, and out of, not like you're ignorant, but like you just don't know, and I'm ready to educate you with the rest of our bargain. You know, like this is actually what I need. I need you to like be on camera for like a stand-in for this day. So like that's your trade. You know.
We do barter trades for magazines who want to have full access to the space and have Condé Nast money, but Condé Nast doesn't give them enough money. Yes. So what we do is we say, what is the equivalent value of a commercial rental? And what we get is like in print, full spread page advertising that costs them $300, or I don't even know how much to print, and is worth on their market $3,000. Yeah. So I think what we're really boiling it down to is, and maybe this is another masterclass, is a bunch of people who are not equipped to articulate their value in a material way or a supportive way. That's why it's so important for us to have these discussions, and hopefully with everything that's going on with our community, we can get better and better at that. Because the conversation you're talking about, Cole, like for me, it gives me anxiety because I'm like, all right, well, that conversation seems good, and I know that the point of it, but I would hate to offend somebody or make them feel like them modeling for me isn't the same value as me being present, because my hourly rate of existence is more of monetary value than yours on this capitalist market based off of this hierarchical system. And then you're all of a sudden you're like, fuck, where do I go?
Totally.
Yeah, maybe we can keep that tab open.
Operations agreement is really what we're talking about. An operations agreement is just like having those needs and haves from those other, like those two people. When I came to Daryl, I was just like, I'm just going to give you an operations agreement. This is what I'm going to bring to the table. This is what you're going to bring to the table. And I guess I've been having to do this a little bit longer, and then you also, where we just kind of were fortunate enough to know that our value and to kind of come to the table with that.
I was thinking, do you think Kickstarter is a really good exercise in a sense to understand your value? Because as you were mentioning earlier, that one of the tough things with the Kickstarter and what took you guys 3 months was this whole introspective process to understand like what is it that we are providing to our community. And I think maybe Kickstarter could be an interesting way to really get to the root of those values without even needing somebody else. You know, you can really get down to what's my value, and Kickstarter is a really good way to kind of
especially when it's not your money. Well, it's not that it's not your money, but it's not your immediate money. But the only way that I would disagree with you is that I think it was critical, not to give myself so much importance, but for me to come in and tell Daryl her worth. Because there's not, and the way that we are right now in this round table, there's certain moments that we need to just like, I need to tell Cole like this is your hourly rate, or I need to tell Daryl like
the combination.
It's the combination.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, Saskia, you should explain this. It's something that she would come into the office every day being like, we already have all of the value we need from this experience. Why? Because now I have my VC deck if I even fucking want it. I have my first advertising campaign. I have figured out and given myself time to answer that question that takes a lot of time, and we're still not even there yet.
Yeah.
But I would recommend, yes, absolutely, Lucho, that even if you don't plan necessarily on ever launching the Kickstarter campaign, but actually using it as a tool
As an exercise.
and an exercise to be like, well, shit, if I'm gonna ask for money and I'm gonna do all this stuff, then I need to be able to get what my value is into a sentence and then a 3-minute video. And if you can't do that, you aren't gonna be able to do it outside of Kickstarter either.
I think that falls in line too with that even if your Kickstarter isn't successful and you don't get the money,
You
still
walk
learn
away.
so much. I mean, when I was back in school, I created a company, and I never went into going to creating the company with the thought of, oh, I want to be like mega successful. No, I went in with like, I just want to learn. And actually through that process is actually where I found my current job. I learned something that was like, the person who hired me was literally like, because you knew this, we were really interested in you. And so this entire journey for me was, you know, this process of learning different things and trying different things.
Letting go of the results in and of itself.
Right, like I didn't
part of the
care. Like
value.
I had people told, like I had ex-friends who told me,
So sorry, I just.
okay, who told me like your idea is a failure, and I looked at them and be like, okay, maybe to the external idea of this sole purpose is a failure, but to me it was a success.
Yeah.
I think it's important to view it like that.
Yeah.